Later on today, over on the Moisky Live channel, I shall be hosting a political recap stream with TrupsLP. The subject will undoubtedly involve the 10 candidates for the Prime Minister's seat and, I don't know, something in America. I don't really pay as much attention. In fact, I get my news from Trups at that point. Link to the channel down below. Now today I want to talk about something quite amusing that has taken place, where somebody has not learnt a very basic fact, and because of this, because they've not shown themselves to have any intellect with an IQ potentially anywhere near the number 1, it's kind of come undone for them. For this, we're going to insert the band Radiohead. Now Radiohead are arguably one of the biggest bands in British rock at the moment. Still, somehow. To me, I find them quite depressing. Almost as depressing as my friend Skog, or Skogley as I'm now calling him. In the sense that their musical lyrics are quite But no one can deny, after Ben's, when they released OK Computer, yeah, they were something special. Because of this, they are, and have been, a big band for a long time. They've managed to stay relevant by being very proactive, by being involved in and advocating for many different things, including groups like Extinction Rebellion. They are renowned for this. So when a hacker hacks into Tom York's mini-disc archive of sessions, demos, and other related content, in this context for the OK Computer album, you would expect perhaps the people to know the enemy. In this context, the enemy would be Tom York, because if you knew the enemy, you would know you cannot blackmail them into giving you money to safely return their music to them. We now know this because within a day of this all happening, within a day of the blackmailers demanding £150,000 for their mini-disc archive, Radiohead made the entire thing public, which I personally thought was quite funny, because this showed how utterly stupid the blackmailers were, the hackers even, because Radiohead have a history of releasing music for free. For an album, they let it be sold for virtually nothing via a newspaper. For a different album, they made it so people could donate whatever they wanted to buy the album. If they knew their enemy, they would have known that this would never work with them. Now yes, Tom York has said he wasn't overly keen on any of this being public, because it's all stuff he doesn't really think is that good. But many have argued actually some of the tunes on it are bangers. And I should now point out I have linked it below. At time of recording, the archive is still available and will be for the next, I think, 16 days. So if you are at all interested in downloading it, go and download it. There is quite a lot there. There are lost tracks people wanted to be released at other times, like the song Lift, which is quite good actually. Greenwood has said that the music originates from the mini-disc archive, but they can't be sure of the actual leak itself, like the original who stole it. But there are claims that the songs had been stolen a while back, because they were being sold from between $50 for a demo to $800 for a full song, all the way up to $150,000 for a completed archive. Now, the band has said, because of all of this, that what they're going to do is, profits from this are going to go to Extinction Rebellion. I'm not overly keen on Extinction Rebellion after the Pink Boat incident, and the hypocrisy of having people like Emma Thompson fly to the UK to do that, to then fly back to America. There is a 12-minute version of Paranoid Android, which, by the way, I had listened to that. I'm not so fond of it. But there are early versions of Exit Music and Poison, which has alternative lyrics, which I think is really, really interesting. Just as an interesting side point, I think it's quite fascinating to hear different versions of the same song. I've heard Dragon Force do it in the past with a couple of their tracks, and you realise, yeah, they chose the right one for the album because the alternate version was a bit cringe, even by their standards. I should say, with the archive that they've made available, you can get the entire thing for £18 with all of that going to Extinction Rebellion. Understandably, this has led to a little increase in their record sales anyway, so I don't think they're complaining. Then again, they never did to begin with. When they first came back with In Rainbow, they'd gone full environmentalist. Albums were sold in cardboard sleeves instead of plastic crystal case. To me, this was a huge mistake by the blackmailers, because it told me they didn't know who they were up against. Oh, we have something of yours. It's all these demos and songs people have been wanting to hear for decades. Literally 20 years people have wanted a copy of the song Lost. That's not even a joke. it was only recently announced that they were going to release that song within the OK Computer 20th anniversary. And one of the reasons it was originally omitted from OK Computer was because they thought it was too much of an anthem, which is something they felt would have taken the original feel out of the album, which to me was just depression incarnate. But what do I know? I'm not the biggest Radiohead fan. I have listened to it though, so I at least have paid some attention to their music. It was why I noticed such a difference between the Bends and OK Computer. I think that's what happens with all bands though, to be fair. It's quite an interesting thing you see with their progression. If they don't change, they stagnate. If they change too fast, people don't stay. If they change gradually, people are still interested, and they still appeal to a newer audience, preventing or prolonging the success before the law of diminishing returns comes into effect. Radiohead changed, and they still managed to make it work. They are a rare breed in that regard, and also signed to a major label, so it wasn't surprising they were able to make a success of it. One of the things I had been wondering was that with these hackers, was there ever a chance these people could be brought to justice to an extent? How they managed to get the mini-discs in the first place intrigues me. How they managed to get the information out there, not surprising. But whether or not they could be found and brought to justice for threatening somebody is interesting. I mean, what do they think they were going to get when they said they were willing to put the music out there for free with a band that was okay with it in the first place? Was there meant to be something incriminating, perhaps? Because I certainly didn't see it when I was going through it. Lots of rough demos, sessions, lost songs, things people wanted to hear. Maybe more bands will do this in the future. I think that would be very interesting, actually, as a progression to show how these albums were made. You sometimes see that with DVDs that are released to coincide with albums, or live albums that have interviews with the band talking about the recording process. I would love to see them actually make the album. I think that would be very interesting. How they drew the inspiration, the inevitable fights that take place when they're deciding on a song structure. That interests me. I remember when My Chemical Romance wrote The Black Parade, and they were very open about this in interviews, that they used to go into a room designated so they could fight each other. Although what damage could an emo kid do to another emo kid, I guess, without the aid of a razor blade? It's a mystery. Anyway, all of this fascinated me because it just showed a complete lack of understanding. I'm also intrigued at the fact that this archive was on a mini-disc. I have in a drawer next to me 5 mini-discs and a mini-disc player. Maybe I should start holding my stuff on that instead. Actually, no, don't, because someone might hack it while it's sat in a crystal case. Never mind. I should probably put my tinfoil hat away before I get too far into that. To end this video, because obviously this isn't a 10-minute topic and I want those sweet ads, lol, I'm going to play another one of my creepypasta tales after the outro. So I hope you'll have a lovely Thursday. Oh, and I just released a video on the Moistski Live channel about Labour trying to prevent a no-deal Brexit. Please go check it out, link below. And thank you all for listening. When the last days were upon me, and the ugly trifles of existence began to drive me to madness, like the small drops of water that torturers let fall ceaselessly upon one spot of their victim's body, I loved the irradiated refuge of sleep. In my dreams, I found a little of the beauty I had vainly sought in life, and wandered through old gardens and enchanted woods. Once when the wind was soft and scented, I heard the south calling, and sailed endlessly and languorously under strange stars. Once when the gentle rain fell, I glided in the barge down a sunless stream under the earth, until I reached another world of purple twilight, iridescent arbours and undying roses. And once I walked through a golden valley that led to shadowy groves and ruins, and ended in a mighty wall green with antique vines and pierced by a little gate of bronze. Many times I walked through that valley, and longer I would pause in the spectral half-light, where the giant trees squirmed and twisted grotesquely, and the grey ground stretched damply from trunk to trunk, sometimes disclosing the mould-stained stones of buried temples. And always the goal of my fancies was the mighty vine-grown wall, with the little gate of bronze therein. After a while, as the days of waking became less and less bearable from their greyness and sameness, I would often drift in opiate peace through the valley and the shadowy groves, and wonder how I might seize them for my eternal dwelling place, so that I need no more crawl back to a dull world, stripped of interest and new colours. And as I looked upon the little gate in the mighty wall, I felt that beyond it lay a dream country from which, once it was entered, there would be no return. So each night in sleep I strove to find the hidden latch of the gate in the ivied antique wall, though it was exceedingly well hidden, and I would tell myself that the realm beyond the wall was not more lasting merely, but more loving and radiant as well. Then one night in the dream city of Zakarian, I found a yellowed papyrus filled with the thoughts of dream sages who dwelt of old in that city, and who were too wise ever to be born in the waking world. Therein were written many things concerning the world of dream, and among them was lore of a golden valley, and a sacred grove with temples, and a high wall pierced by a little bronze gate. When I saw this lore, I knew that it touched on the scenes I had haunted, and I therefore read long in the yellowed papyrus. Some of the dream sages wrote gorgeously of the wonders beyond the irrepassable gate, but others told of horror and disappointment. I knew not which to believe, yet longed more and more to cross forever into the unknown land, for doubt and secrecy are the lure of lures, and no new horror can be more terrible than the daily torture of the commonplace. So when I learned of the drug which could unlock the gate and drive me through, I resolved to take it when next I awaked. Last night, I swallowed the drug and floated dreamily into the golden valley and the shadowy groves, and when I came this time to the antique wall, I saw that the small gate of bronze was ajar. From beyond came a glow that weirdly lit the giant twisted trees and the tops of buried temples, and I drifted on songfully, expectant of the glories of the land from whence I should never return. But as the gate swung wider, and the sorcery of drug and dream pushed me through, I knew that all sights and glories were at an end, for in that new realm was neither land nor sea, but only the white void of unpeopled and illimitable space. So happier than I had ever dared to hope to be, I dissolved again into that native infinity of crystal oblivion, from which the demon life had called me for one brief and desolate hour.